confident are you that he can turn it around in Cleveland?
Oh, I think he can turn it around. I think he needs another coach. Baker Mayfield, whatever his flaws, has shown he can perform at a certain level in the NFL. He did it in his first season, his rookie season. You saw him take over once he had a coach that wasn't good for him, at least. But Hugh Jackson didn't win any games, so he was a bad coach. Once he got a coach that he clicked with, he was, throwing a lot more open receivers, and he looked pretty good. Odell Beckham got into the league, played 11 games, and went for 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns as a 22-year-old. 23-year-old, 15 games, 1,450 yards, 13 TDs. 24-year-old, played all 16 games, 1,350 yards, 10 TDs. Then he got hurt. Then he came back, played in, whatever was a dozen games and got over 1,000 yards. And then, the Giants really was not a good situation. He gets traded to Cleveland where they don't know how to use him. So unless you think Odell has lost his talent, he was putting up those numbers I mentioned on a team with no offensive line and a quarterback who couldn't do it anymore. And they didn't even have a running game back then, and he was putting up those numbers. So I have to think if you just have competence in Cleveland, you just have a competent situation, Odell Beckham is going to be able to put up now at the age of 27. It's been a while since, is this a functional kind of competent situation? No. Was it last year for him? No. The year before? No. Has he ever had it in his career? He's never had it in his career, but he was putting up record-breaking numbers early on. So unless the injuries really robbed him of athletic ability, and from what you can see, he's obviously still very athletic, I have to believe that as the competency around him increases, you will see him going back to putting up absurd numbers. I think he'll be fine, but the situation has to get better.
I think that you're completely wrong about this, Max Kellerman, because of exactly what you just said. As the level of competency or what have you surrounding him improves. Stop right there. We're talking about the Cleveland Browns. What are you talking about? I mean, in order to believe in Odell Beckham Jr. in Cleveland, you have to believe in the pieces that are going to be around him. What I would say to you is that because Baker Mayfield ain't going anywhere, neither is an upgrade in production from Odell Beckham Jr. because I don't believe in Baker Mayfield to that level. Do I believe he's a scrub? Absolutely not. But I do believe this is a man's game. I do believe that he's still growing and needing to mature. And I don't believe that his size is beneficial to him as it pertains to Odell Beckham Jr. Just think about this for a second. And Damian, help me out here if you can in a minute. When you are a relatively miniature quarterback, a lot of things have to do with timing, which has to do with faith. I'm going to throw the ball in a certain spot because I'm confident, A, that you're going to be there, and B, the chemistry and cohesiveness between you and I, quarterback to receiver, is there. How can that possibly be the case? Yes, we have questions about Kitchens, but we also have questions about Baker Mayfield. Now, Baker Mayfield might only be completing 60% of his passes, 17 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, a QBR of 42, might have been sacked 34 times this year, but it's not just that. We're looking at a guy whose skills on this level is questionable. You have people thinking he was going to be a stud, and that has not been the case. He makes far too many mistakes. He holds on to the ball far too much longer than he should. Obviously, that's contributed to him being sacked, et cetera, et cetera. Then what do you do if you're Dorsey in concert with Kitchens? First of all, you give Baker Mayfield the coach he wanted. That was mistake number one. Number two, you got Jarvis Landry, you got Nick Chubb, and Njoku's been out. What about when he comes back? Kareem Hunt is there. Too many guys with their hands out wanting their shine. As a result of it, because of the immaturity on that squad in terms of leadership, combined with the personalities that you have, with a Baker Mayfield at the quarterback spot, there is no way in hell, in my estimation, that situation is going to work for Odell Beckham Jr. He is a star, but he is a star that hasn't been one this year, and I blame Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens for that, and I think Odell Beckham Jr. needs to be elsewhere. It ain't going to work in Cleveland because he never wanted to be there to begin with. He really wanted to be in L.A., not Cleveland, Ohio.
Listen, I'm a fan of Odell Beckham Jr. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is
So
a
am I.
transcendent talent. No one can deny that. Coach Belichick used to say that good players can't overcome bad coaching, can't overcome disasters as far as organizations are concerned. And I think that's my issue with as it relates to Odell Beckham and the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns as an organization is the only franchise that hasn't been to a postseason, I think, this whole millennia. They're the only franchise that hasn't done it.
Since the dawn of creation.
Think of the ineptitude that you got to have as an organization that you haven't even sniffed the playoffs in that period of time. It's been that long. And regardless of what we think of Odell Beckham and all the different physical attributes that he brings to the table, the one-hand catches, the speed, and all those type of things, when you have dysfunction around you, when you have a first-year quarterback that's dictating who the head coach is going to be. Think about that. You're talking about a guy who just come into the league, had a pretty good rookie year. There's no question about that. But basically dictated the terms to have a guy who was a position coach, and in a matter of like a less than a calendar year, got elevated to being a head coach. Those are the type of things that dysfunctional organizations do, okay? And we've seen these type of things backfire time and time again. So, again, I'm going to say one more time, I don't dispute Odell Beckham's talent, but if he's going to get back on track like we all think he can do, I don't think it can be with the Cleveland Browns.